Hello, my name is Ryan LeBlanc, and I want to read to you. So here we are. We're going to start with one of the classics of European literature. It is the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. I'll look up how to pronounce that. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to share this book with you. I just want to. I'm. It's one of my favorite books that's actually in my collection. We've got what's easiest here. Apologize here for the cameras. So we've got the Divine Comedy of Dante Alighieri, and it's translated by Lawrence Grant White, and we've got these classic engravings by Gustave Doré. So we'll talk more about kind of the history of this work and how it became a part of our canon. But just for now, just in terms of the physical book that I want to share with you, it's a classic. I'm not sure exactly when the I'm not sure exactly when this translation was made, but this print, well, it says a new translation, so it does look to me like we've got this. It was probably around the mid 20th century that this was translated. So it's relative to Dante. It's relatively new, but we have this engraving here of the author. He just looks grumpy, right? He looks kind of like put out. And Dante was a really passionate man, and he encountered a lot of trials and struggles in his life. He has these laurels because he was named kind of the poet laureate. Today he's considered kind of Italy's national poet, and that's a lot considering how rich they are in culture and tradition. But this particular book, it includes the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and Paradiso. So it's basically it's 3 volumes. It's like a trilogy of kind of epic poetry. Inferno is hell, so Purgatorio is purgatory, and Paradiso is heaven. So he goes to these 3 places, and the entire poem is the story of what he finds and what he experiences, and especially who he interacts with in those realms, right? And as I said, we got Gustave Doré, so he did these engravings, and we'll see the engravings come up. They're really classic. They're in the public domain, and they are really brilliant evocations of Dante. This is out of America in New York. MC. So that's 1900. Okay, so X is 10 and L is 50, so that's 10 less than 50, so that's 40, 46, 40, 48, something like that. I don't know. Let's see, we got the translator's note, which would be awesome if I could actually say it. Oh, here we go. 1948. So it is 1948. So 75 plus years ago. I'd love to do the translator's note. I'm sure it would be really interesting, but I'm not going to do that here because I want to just kind of dig into the book. As we can see here, contents, Inferno. So we've got, I'm going to just let you see what I see a little bit better. Okay. So contents, Inferno, that's the first kind of book, and then it's grouped into cantos. So a canto is like a song or like a group of verse. And it's got, as you can see down here, we've got Inferno, and he's got a lot of, it's kind of the summary of it. And then if I adjust it to here, 34 cantos in Inferno, and then we've got Purgatorio with a similar number, 33, and Paradiso we've got with 33 as well. So interesting. Okay, so there's probably some sort of structure going on here. You know, in Inferno he has basically the beginning, like before he actually enters into Inferno, and then there's 33 cantos in Hell, and then Purgatorio 33 cantos, and Paradiso 33 cantos. You see that he's doing something with the structure here. He's saying this is like perfect or aligned because the 3 is thought to be a divine number in Christian tradition, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit from the Trinity, and then everything out from that. The Greek philosophers also talked about the number 3 as being important in terms of mathematical philosophy. So the 33 is like the double. Also, traditionally, Christ lived on earth. Jesus Christ lived. Jesus of Nazareth lived an earthly life of 33 years. Right. So there's all these symbolism in here in terms of the structure. But I think that's probably all I'm going to say about this. I just want to read it with you. So what I want to do is I just want to read a paper book with you, and I've kind of developed I've developed my reading ability. Like, I read at a really high level. I read really quickly. I read really deeply and critically. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that there aren't better readers than me out there. But the idea of this is that maybe you saw, Dante, and maybe you thought, I would love to read that. I'd love to get into it. And maybe after the first couple cantos, maybe you got kind of frustrated. Or maybe what I did, my first reading of it, I read Inferno, and then I found Purgatorio just so boring, I just gave up, right? So, or maybe you just don't understand everything that's going on with it. So I just want to read it with you, and if you enjoy just having the audio or following along on the video with the text, then that's a way for you to read it, right? You could read it with me. You could type a question for me while I'm chatting, or you could type a comment after the stream is posted. And so you could engage with me and ask questions about that, or just use that as your means of engagement with the text itself. And so I guess I'm like, by seeing me read, you could enjoy my reading to you, and you could also grow in your own reading capacity. So that's the thought of it. If you enjoy it, that would be delightful for me. And if it doesn't work for you, then, click out of YouTube, pick up the book, and read it on your own. That also would be delightful for me. All right. So we're looking at Dante and the Divine Comedy. So we've got Dante, the Divine Comedy, Inferno. And then we're going to have a great woodcut right here. So by woodcut, I mean it's actually an engraving. We could even do a pan here, right? So let's zoom in a little bit. So this is a dark wood, right? And we see the light revealing that Dante is walking out of here. He's not looking so good. He's looking back over his shoulder, and he's heading into the dark woods. So everybody's like, well, not everybody. This is Dante astray in the dusky wood. You might be wondering, well, where is this wood? Can I go to the woods that Dante was astray in? And it's like, no, we're deep into symbolism here. That, to my knowledge, there's no way that there's no sense that we're talking about a literal geographical forest here, right? But rather, Dante's going to set this up as the beginning of his journey. And so I think, well, for me, I know I said I'd just get into it, but as I'm reading this, I'm like, so there's no literal forest. And in another sense, we could say Dante didn't really go to hell and purgatory and paradise. This is something that he imagined. This is something that he invented and authored. But that doesn't mean it's not true, right? It means he's trying to grapple with truth, earthly truth, by expressing what his experience is of that which is beyond earthly life, what he imagines the beyond of earthly life to be. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in here because I think it would make a great screenshot, a great thumbnail. So here we have, this is why we live stream, right? Is because all the mistakes are more human. This is Dante Alighieri with the Divine Comedy. I appreciate feedback. If there's stuff that you can't see or whatever, make sure that you type it in the chat or leave a comment. The Divine Comedy, Inferno, Canto 1. The Divine Comedy, Inferno, Canto 1. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found that I was in a dusky wood. For the right path, whence I had strayed, was lost. Ah me, how hard a thing it is to tell the wildness of that rough and savage place, the very thought of which brings back my fear. So bitter was it, death is little more so, but that the good I found there may be told, I will describe the other things I saw. How I arrived there, it were hard to tell. So weary was my mind, so filled with sleep. I reeled and wandered from the path of truth. When I had come before a mountain's base, the ending of that steep and rugged valley that lately had so struck my heart with fear, I raised my eyes and saw the mountain's shoulder already covered by the planet's rays that safely guide the steps of other men. Then was my terror somewhat quieted, that through the last night's anguish I had borne, within the very wellspring of my heart, like one who, having battled with the waves in safety on the shore, with panting breath looks back upon the perils of the deep, so did my soul, which still in terror fled, turn back to contemplate with awe and fear that pass which man had never left alive. Doesn't look super focused. Sorry guys, my autofocus is not autofocusing. I'm not sure if that's a tech problem or what. But I think here's I'm going to get right now. After my weary body had been rested, again I started up the desert steep, so that my lower foot was e'er the firmer, when lo, close to the bottom of the mount, a leopardess, light poised and passing swift, her hide all covered o'er with inky spots, she always stood before me, face to face, blocking my path whenever I advanced, so that I turned and turned again in vain. 'Twas at the very earliest flush of dawn, the sun was rising, placed among those stars which were surrounding him, when love divine first set those heavenly things upon their course. The time of day, the soft air of the season, emboldened me to hope I might prevail against that beast with gaily spotted hide, but not enough. To overcome my fear when I beheld a lion in my path. He seemed as if he were advancing on me, his head erect, by rabid hunger driven, so that the very air did seem afraid. A she-wolf stood beside him, gaunt and grim, whose leanness showed her hunger unappeased, though many she had caused to live in woe. So heavily she bore my spirits down, with terror of which her very aspect caused, that I lost hope of making the ascent. the lion suddenly confronts Dante. Here we see kind of like the light, the dawn starting to rise way out in the horizon, but it's a deep and dark valley, right? So, and the clouds are super overcast. So we see this glimmer of light to give some background, some depth to the engraving. But then we see this lion. He looks like Aslan, which is like 700 years later. He looks like Aslan, but Dante's up there, and it's just like he's got this immovable force of wildness. Awesome. Okay. And as a man who glories in his gains, when comes the time that all he has is lost, despairs, his thoughts, oppressed by misery, so I became before that restless beast, which, coming on against me step by step, made me retreat to where the sun is still. Made me retreat to where the sun is still. While I was stumbling down to lower ground, before my startled eyes appeared a man whose voice seemed weak from long continued silence. And when I saw him in that desert place, "Help! Pity me!" I cried. "Whate'er you are, a living man or spectre from the shades." Is a new character. He answered me, "No man am I, though once a man I was. From Lombard parents sprung, who both were citizens of Mantua. Late in the time of Julius I was born, and lived in Rome while great Augustus reigned, when false and lying gods still held their sway. I was a poet, and sang the worthy son born to Anchises, who escaped from Troy after proud Ilion was burned to ashes. But why do you return to so much woe? Why not climb upward to that happy mountain, the origin and cause of every joy?" "Are you then Virgil, that great fountainhead, whence such a flood of eloquence has flowed?" I answered him abashed, with forehead bowed. "O light and honor of all other poets, may my long faithful study of your book and my great love for it avail me now. You are my master and my very author. It is from you alone that I have taken the lofty style for which men honor me. See yonder beast from which I turned away. Protect me from her, O illustrious sage. My blood is trembling in my veins from fear." "Another passage you must seek," he said, perceiving that my eyes were filled with tears, "if you would safely leave this savage place. For that wild beast which makes you cry aloud suffers no man to pass along her way, but blocks his passage till he has been slain. Her nature is so evil and malign." Retake. "Her nature is so evil and malign that never is her greedy will appeased. Food only makes her hungrier than before. With many another animal she has bred, and will with many more, until such time the hound shall come to make her die of grief. That hound who shall not feed upon the land or riches, but on wisdom, love, and valor. His fatherland shall lie between the Feltras. The Savior, he of fallen Italy, for whom the maid Camilla died, and Turnus, Euryalus, and Nixus shed their blood. Though every city he shall drive her on, until again she takes her place in hell, whence envy sent her forth to plague mankind. Wherefore I think that it were best for you to follow me, and I shall be your guide, to lead you hence through that eternal place where you shall hear despairing cries of woe, and see the ancient spirits in their grief proclaiming they have died a second death. Then you shall look on those who are content to burn in flames, because they hope to join, whenever it may be, the blessed throng. But should you wish to reach the realms of bliss, for that there will be a worthier soul than I'll leave you in her care when I depart. For the great emperor who rules above forbids that I, rebellious to his law, approach his glorious citadel. The Lord who ruleth all there sits on high. There is his city, there his lofty throne. How happy there is... Retake. How happy there is he whom God hath chosen. And I said to him, O poet, I beseech you, by that same God whom you have never known, that I may flee this wickedness and worse. O lead me where you said but now a while, so that I may behold St. Peter's gate, and those you say are so oppressed by grief. Then he moved on. I followed in his steps. Okay, well, I believe that is the end of Canto 1. Let's take a look. Yeah, so we'll begin Canto 2 on another time. Okay, so this is the entrance, the beginning to it, and I think, I don't know, for a hook, for a beginning of what ends up to be a pretty lengthy poem, it's a pretty compelling hook. Okay, we'll see how our endurance holds throughout the other cantos, but it's so compelling, and it's just dropped right in the middle of it. Like, there's no like, what is Dante trying to get away from? Why is he walking in this wood? He's strayed, he's lost, and he's just like, it just strikes him with fear. So I guess, like, if he's talking about the transition from earthly life into non-earthly life, right? Hell, purgatory, and heaven. He's saying that earthly life is dark, it's dangerous, it strikes him with fear. It's lonely. Here's the big one. Like, he's all alone in this wood. I like, just this very first one. I wanted to talk about it as I read it, but I'm just like, it's just so rich in how it sets up the mood and the tone for us. He's midway upon the journey of our life, right? So he's right in the smack of earthly life, and so we could, maybe it's his middle age, right? Is this whole thing a middle age crisis, right? What's going on with this? And he was on the right path, but he had strayed away and he's lost, and that leaves him in this, like I say, this wildness of that rough and savage place. And he's got some PTSD going on here, right? It's like he's come out of it and he's writing about his experience, but it's still shaking him with fear. And I think it's just so effective, because for me, it just kind of connects all of us to feelings of loneliness, feelings of insecurity, feelings of just like we're not like the world doesn't seem to be a good place, right? We're not where we're supposed to be, right? And so, his journey up into heaven is like from his theology, from Christian theology, heaven is where he belongs, right? That heaven is what he was created for. And so it's this journey from this it's an existential angst, which is what we'll call it in the 20th century. But it's this sense that my life is empty and meaningless and chaotic and unstructured and everything else like that. But my favorite line here: "So bitter it was it, death is little more so." But I love this line here, and I think it's like it's a good motto. I think I could see this whole first. It's not a paragraph. It's like a stanza, but not exactly. But anyway, these first 10 lines or so. But that the good I found there may be told, I will describe the other things I saw. And to me, I'm like, well, that's a writer, that's an author. But that's also all of us sharing our experience. Like, we go through all sorts of crap in our lives. And what makes us retell it? Well, we do retell the crap. Some people get like circular and just like kind of circling around the worst thing that ever happened in their life. But for most of us, like, we really love a story where, and we really love to not love. We feel compelled to make a story out of our lives where, how, however dark and rough and savage our experience of life is, we want to tell that as a part of a story to also convey the good that we find on our journey, right? And yeah, I think I talked a little bit about this. This is, this is poetic, right? It's not meant to be like an actual travel journey, right? But he's got this encounter first with a leopard, then a lion, and then the wolf. And it's actually the wolf that is central in the text. It's the wolf who the more she eats, the more she's hungry. And there's a couple things going on here. First of all, I'm like, here's the lion suddenly confronts Dante. So the engraving doesn't feature the she-wolf, but rather a lion who stands and proud. And the leopard and the lion, I think, are both gendered as male. And then the wolf as female is ravenous and kind of the wildest of the wild. And then finally, this person that he encounters is Virgil. And we're gonna get to know Virgil over the next 66 cantos, right? So Virgil's going to be Dante's guide through hell and through purgatory. And just so you know, Virgil was an epic poet who was associated with the Roman Empire. And he says he was born just at the end of Julius, and then while Augustus reigned, he was living and writing. And Dante sees him as the seminal Roman, therefore the seminal Italian poet, writer, author. And so Dante is just fanboying all over him. He's just like, this is awesome. Like, I try to be like you all the time, and now you're right here in front of me. And so all of that is we call that a conceit. He's actually writing in Virgil as his guide because he deeply respects and admires him, but also he wants to look good by associations. Like, Virgil comes to guide me along. And the idea is that he really wants to be continuing Virgil's work, but now in a Christian context. And so the theology of the day is that Virgil can never go to heaven because Virgil was living in pagan Rome and worshipped pagan gods and never was baptized. So that's the theology that Dante is working out of. We should, because I know Catholic theology and most other contemporary Christianity, I would say Catholic and Orthodox theology would say that that's not exactly how we would see the spirit of Virgil. We can and should hope that those who have not been, who did not hear of the gospel of Christ, can be with God, united in paradise and in heaven. So that's a different video. But so I think it's important for me, because it is my cultural and spiritual tradition, it's important to distinguish Dante's theology from of the 12th century, of the 13th century, of the medieval period. It's a different. There are different interpretations. Our interpretations have grown and evolved since then. So don't read Dante like he's writing the Bible, or like he's speaking definitively for the entire church. This is how Dante understood his theology, and so it makes sense that he's going to write about it out of a framework that makes sense to him, right? But within this text, within the Divine Comedy, one of the things we're going to see is that Virgil now understands that God. He says, heaven is awesome, and God makes the great. God is the great emperor, and how happy are those people who are there, right? So in death, he's acknowledging the sovereignty of God within Dante's thing, but because of the circumstances of his life, he's not able to attain that final paradise, and so he's going to hand Dante off to somebody else. Ooh, I wonder who it's going to be. It's going to be a big reveal. He's going to hand Dante off for a different guide, for Paradiso. All right, so that was Canto 1. We got from a dark dusk wood, and now Virgil's leading him on, and we're going to see where is Virgil going to lead him. He's going to lead him to hell, and I don't know. Sometimes life is so rough that you just got to go to hell before you start to feel better, right? Sometimes life is the other saying is, you know what, if you're going through hell, keep going, because just waiting there is not going to be any good at all. So it's about moving forward. And the other one is we're going to see that we're going to see a spiral motif, like he's either spiraling down or spiraling up. And so it's this slow, gradual descent and then ascent. And so we're going to see something it's not really geography, but it's like somewhere in the space. We're going to see his spiritual and symbolic journey kind of represented. All right, so this is my idea. I just want to share an old book with you and read it with you. I don't know when I will be next streaming. I'm not in a place to schedule that. But if you're interested in this, like honestly, like if one person leaves a comment that they listened to this and they found it helpful, that makes a big difference in terms of when I prioritize coming back to this and reading the next canto. So if you've come this far, thank you. Thanks for spending the time with me. I encourage you to read the Divine Comedy on your own and enjoy this classic piece of work. And if you've gotten this far, please leave a comment just to let us know that somebody's watching and that this is something that you benefited from, even if you just kind of enjoyed shooting a couple minutes with me. Anyway, yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you in what I hope to be the next stream, where we're going to go to Canto 2 and we'll go to hell together. Take care.